Hey, buddy. Welcome back. Today, we're going to continue our discussion about heat because we have a heat dome on the way to the United States, at least the eastern United States. And I think it's worth discussing some of the dangers that we encounter when we're operating in extremely hot or relatively hot and humid conditions. So, over the weekend, in Europe, they canceled a MDOT event, and it was because of the heat and the concerns about that. And I frankly commend them for doing that. It's a very tough decision, especially when people have traveled from far away to show up and do this race. But the race director and the committee decided that it would be too dangerous, and I think they made the right decision. I have been involved with some events as a participant where things got a little bit out of control hot, and it becomes dangerous. And competitive athletes don't have the greatest "I'm going to stop because it seems like this is a bad idea" mentality when they're on the race course. So they are going to get a lot of flack for it, but I think it was a good idea. So back to the heat and back to the heat dome. This week is July 4th coming up on the weekend, and many places are going to have like a 4 on the 4th or a 5K or things like that. They're mostly going to be in the morning, but we're looking at record-breaking heat, at least in my part of the country. So I wanted to go over a few things. If you are going to be participating in an athletic event like that, or if you are just going to stick to your guns and continue your training like nothing has changed. So one of the first things you should realize when you're exercising in extreme hot conditions is that you really, really should adjust your pace. And by that, I mean your pace goals downward or slower. That's going to be more applicable on the run, but it's also true on the bike because of the relative effort level that you'll have to put out to, keep going. So on the run, we're talking anywhere from 45 seconds to 90 seconds a mile, depending on how extreme the conditions are for you. So if you could run, let's say, a 6:30 10K pace when it's 50 degrees out, you might want to look at 7:15 to 7:45 as your day of race pace, just because of how uncomfortable and how difficult the heat and humidity make it. So in my case, we're going to do a 4-mile race on the 4th of July morning. It starts at 7 a.m., so thankfully it's early, but it's already going to feel like 90 degrees out. So I'm going to be adjusting my goal pace upwards by about a minute per mile. And I'm going to be perfectly happy with that, okay? Now, if you are at the tip of the spear and you're gunning for, competitive wins and all that stuff, there's a risk profile, people. The more competitive you want to be, the more risk you're going to take on. So here are all the things you can do to mitigate risk, which is a big part of my job with my athletes, teaching them and coaching them on how to mitigate risk. So number one, skip the alcohol. If you want to do well at an event and it's going to be on the hotter side, in general, you should already be laying low on the alcohol. But if it's hot, you should lay off entirely because alcohol interferes with your ability to manage heat. And it is also a dehydrating chemical, right? So it's going to make you more dehydrated just by consuming it. So two things going on there. One, it makes you more dehydrated, and two, it actually interferes with your body's ability to manage heat. So skip it the night before, if not the week before. Number two, consider these pacing adjustments. Number three, you must ensure that you are staying on top of your hydration, both leading into and during the event. And this isn't just guzzling water because you're going to be sweating buckets like during training. So you need to stay on top of your electrolytes. And for this reason, when it gets extremely hot like this, I'm advising people drink more sports drink during the course of the day. Some of you are very, very good about dialing in your nutrition intake, and so you kind of know your macro and micro numbers throughout the day. But if you are not that person, then having a bottle of Gatorade at lunch or dinner instead of just water is okay. Sure, it's got a little more sugar, but you can get the Gatorade or Sports Drink Zero or the Sports Drink Light, or you can just add the electrolytes to your water. But you need to be doing something proactively throughout the training, throughout the week, leading into things like this. Number 3.5 or 4, I forget my list here. So let's talk about heat exhaustion. If you are going out and doing one of these sessions, whether it's early morning and it's just hot and humid already, or you're the person that can only train in the afternoon, let's talk about the signs and symptoms of that. The first one is that you will sweat profusely. So if you're sweating profusely, that means it's warm. No kidding, right? You could get like reddish skin, like you get flushed. You may get a headache or feel dizzy. And then this is getting more into the danger zone. If you start to see spots or your vision starts to tunnel, that's a real sign that you need to stop or slow down and take a break. Another one that we should think about is if you transition from hot skin, sweaty skin to like cool and clammy skin. That is a problem. That is a sign that you are ready to shut down. And the next step in your journey on that day is going to be heat stroke conditions. So we want to stop any of this stuff before we get too far into heat exhaustion. Again, when you're a competitive athlete and we're dealing with summer conditions, you're going to see some of these signs. It's very, very normal to sweat a lot. It's somewhat normal to get flushed. It's less normal to start to see spots or get tunnel vision, but you get to clammy, and now you're one step away from getting into heat stroke conditions. Heat stroke means your body has started to lose or has lost the ability to manage heat. Your core temperature is going to shoot over 104 degrees, and you're in imminent danger of death. So let's stop before we get anywhere near that point. So again, I'm advising caution in situations like this. Err on the side of caution. It's not worth your life to cross the finish line first, in my opinion. Some of you may differ on that, but it's not worth it in my opinion. So all of that being said, you can go out and manage to train and manage to race in hot conditions. Again, we're looking at record-breaking heat in my region of the country. So I would advise you, slow down. If you can, go run in the shade, right? So you go on the greenways, there's going to be more shade out there as opposed to the open streets. If you can go to a park and run on trails, if you are a decent trail runner, then the ground there, the dirt, the pine needles, all of that doesn't absorb as much heat as asphalt and pavement. So that is going to keep you cooler. The same goes for riding outside. If you can get off the asphalt and moved to the bridle trails, the greenway trails, the combination of shade and or dirt surfaces are going to keep the area that you are in much cooler. Now, much cooler doesn't mean it's cool. It could be, it's going to feel like 120 degrees on the road in some places, guys. And that is scalding hot. That is, I'm done in 20 minutes kind of, level. But if you can take it to off-road, and by me off-road, I mean just off the roads, it's going to feels like 95. So it's still somewhat boiling, but it's going to be healthier for you. And then back to my video from last week, if you could swim more in periods like this, I really think that is a good idea. Just sub out a long run for a swim, or instead of running for an hour and a half, maybe you run 50 minutes and then swim 30 minutes. So doing things like that is going to increase your longevity and your desire to actually exercise when conditions get ripe. And in all probability, it's going to increase your overall athletic life in the sense that you know how to adapt and change. So, guys, be careful out there this weekend. Go low on the alcohol if you're doing a competitive event on the weekend itself, especially if you are looking at it and it says it's going to be record-breaking heat. So this is us, or this is us, and this one's a video, or that one's a video. Like and subscribe. Thank you. I'll see you next time.